What's up, everyone? Beast Mode back here with another video. So today I wanted to discuss my top 8 deck list prediction of the upcoming RBET. I will not be playing in that tournament. Just have some family events that need to be taken care of, and I've been playing a whole lot of Yu-Gi-Oh as of late, so it's probably best that I do take a break from a tournament scene. But anyway, this is kind of just a fun video, more or less my opinion of what I feel is going to top. Most of the time, we're often very wrong. It's very hard to predict the exact decks that will top, but I will tell you, going into Deck Devastators, most of the people who did well, I can pull up the deck here, was main decking or sideboard Snowman Eater. So Snowman was in the 55 cards, or 56 if you would look at this deck. And that was a very good meta call because of how popular Hero Beat was. So you can obviously kind of predict what you think you're going to play, but to actually narrow down and say there's going to be 2 quick draw decks, 2 disaster dragon decks, that's very difficult to do. But generally, if I was playing in this event, I would be playing something either Diva Hero or Zombies. Obviously, most of you have seen my last video. I kind of just picked up the Diva Hero deck and just rolled with it. I was just kind of bored of Zombies. Had already had an invite to the RBET Rulers, flew out to California, did all that, kind of just wanted to break, and, lucky enough, I was able to top 8. So I do like Diva Hero in the sense that it's very, very explosive. It plays a little bit like Zombies, but it just kind of has like a higher ceiling on any given turn. That's what I experienced playing the deck. I have very little experience with the deck. Pretty much that whole tournament, I played about, I don't know, 10 matches with the deck total. So I will post a video of my thoughts of maybe I'll tell you how I exactly play the deck, more or less. And I'm not sure it's right at all, but a True Hero is a lot better player with the Diva Hero deck, but I will just kind of share how I think you should play the deck, which, again, I'm not no expert at all. I am literally just playing the deck for the first time, but I had some success. So, but anyway, what I think will top this weekend, I do think that we'll see a Vayu Turbo deck. This deck did not top Deck Devastators, but it's extremely consistent. It has answers to just about everything. Yeah, I'm not sure why we didn't see anything in the top cut at all. Again, a lot of the decks that top, it really depends on who's playing them. I've realized that it's more or less the players rather than the deck sometimes. But I do think that we probably will see one of these top again. They do pretty well in the double elimination tournaments. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Vayu Turbo deck top. They typically do top a lot of events. Hero Beat, I don't think that this deck is just all of a sudden bad. I think that the Deck Devastators tournament did show us that having some level of defense for the deck, like Snowman, was obviously a great call. Can kind of help combat the deck, but I do not think that this deck is all of a sudden bad. I'm sure that it will change a little bit to adapt, but I think the deck is just extremely consistent. It does have a difficult time dealing with large monsters at times. Like, if you can land a Synchro or 2 on the board and they just don't have Gemini Sparks or the Honest, the deck really can't deal with them, especially if you have Stardust. Say you have Stardust on the board, you just don't attack with it. How do they play around it? Like, the only way they can out the Stardust on the board is literally Honest. Like, they can do some trickery, of course, with Book and whatnot, but Compulse can too. But if you're not attacking, they can't deprison it. So that's some things that players are getting better with. They know that Stardust can shut down the Spark, which is pretty much the best card of the deck. So if you can make Stardust and another big monster, which is why Diva Hero is so good, because you can just spit out Absolute Zero and just sit behind a Stardust the whole time and just swing with Absolute Zero. This deck has a difficult time dealing with that. In War League, it has extremely high win rate, but this week we kind of saw a lot of the Hero Beat decks just start losing again. And some of the matches you see, they just had a difficult time getting over some of the larger monsters. Even Cyber Dragon poses a difficult threat for this deck just because it's 2100 attack. So I do think the deck is good. I do think that we'll see it top. I just don't think we'll see it top as frequent as it has. I think that Edison is nowhere near being solved, and I think that there's just too many decks in the format generally where we're just kind of rotating through them. I feel like that's kind of what's going on. And there's still things being innovated. So, the Gemini deck I have not even touched, but that deck is getting a lot of hype, and it seems to be really good. So there's always new decks. I think we're a long ways away from this format being solved. Blackwing, the deck is just too good. Has all the best cards in the format. Obviously, this is probably the best deck, if not second behind Frogs, in my opinion. It just has too many unfair cards. Whirlwind is just unfair. If you draw that card all day long, it's really hard to lose. This deck will consistently top. I think there might have been one tournament where there was not a Blackwing deck in the top cut, which was like unbelievable. But other than that, they've been there every single time. Heroes or Hero Frog, some version of Frogs. I know I kind of clumped them all together. This is obviously Fraser Smith's deck here. He's covered it on his channel, but I'm not sure if it's the hero build that's better than the regular build or the junk build or the diva build. I'm not a frog expert, but I do think that frogs in general will be in the top cut. As soon as they get popular, people start side decking heavy for them and they take a hit. That's kind of the problem with frogs, that there is just so much hate for the deck because of how unfair it can be, that people say, I'm just not going to lose to this deck and I'm going to side deck 12 cards if I have to. And that's kind of what happens in some of these tournaments where we think frogs are just going to start running away with the format, and every single person side decking 10, 11 cards for the deck, and or main decking. Like some of the zombie decks have started to main deck Crow on top of Book of Life, which again, Crow itself doesn't really stop the deck, but it's a lot to deal with if you're dealing with the Book of Life removing heroes and or Crows removing heroes and frogs. So that's kind of the problem with the frog deck. I think the deck is probably the best deck of game one. It's like auto win almost. It's really hard to lose game one with this deck. But once side decking gets involved, the sideboard here, I think that's what's going to end up happening with frogs. I think that they're going to start, like, this side deck is different than they typically are, where a lot of the sideboards are just like, I'm going to side deck in 15 cards to stop your cards. And maybe that's just not the answer. Maybe the answer is, let's just make this more defensive, or add a bit more of this or that. And I think that's kind of what's going on here. Like, let's add a torrential and compulse and maybe play a little bit more of a fair game 2 and 3, rather than just trying to side deck cards to just stop an opponent's sideboard, which is initially what was going on. If you look at the earlier sideboards, it was like 3 Vanities, 3 Soul Exchange, 3 Dust Tornado, more or less just hoping to hit any, Master Restrict, hit Fossil Dyna, hit Vanity's Fiend of that the opponent side decked in. So again, I'm not a frog expert, but I do think that the sideboard is probably the key to this deck's future success. But again, I could be very wrong. It's just a matter of opinion that I'm just spitting off the top of my head. So, but I do think a frog deck will top. Again, frog players, there are some clearly better frog players than others, and if they're in the tournament, then they tend to top. I know at its core, everybody jokes and says how easy this deck is, but obviously to play in a, especially double elimination tournament, it could be 12, 13 rounds. You need to know what's going on. You have to be able to play the higher level combo plays with this deck, and a lot of the frog players are just not able to do that, especially the ones who are just picking up the deck. So it all depends on who's piloting these decks. Will really, dictate if they're going to top or not. I know in the Deck Devastators tournament, we can pull it up here, there were 15 or so zombie players, and only one made like the top 12 or top 16 cut. So again, these decks are difficult to play, not specifically just zombies, but let's say use fairies for an example. It all depends on what players are playing these decks. You can have 50 people playing fairies, and if someone is not very good with the deck, then they may not top. Just because it's 50 of them doesn't mean they're going to top. You would think mathematically, well, math doesn't lie, they would have a very good chance of topping, but that doesn't always happen. We've seen decks, high numbers of decks played in tournaments, and none of them make the top cut. So zombies here, again, a lot of the time it's a couple players that keep topping with the deck. Pizza did just top Deck Devastators 4 with the deck. Definitely different with the Cyber Dragons in the main board, and again, double DD Crow. Double Dust again, which for a while we were kind of cutting back the Dust Tornadoes because of how many frogs are running around, but now Hero Beat and Blackwing are just so prevalent that you have to have the Dust Tornadoes back in. So again, do I think that zombies can top? Absolutely, it's a very good deck. I just don't know if it will. I do think that there will be a decent amount of zombie players in the tournament, but I often see a lot of them just don't do well with the deck. Again, I'm not playing. I'm not sure if Silchus is playing. Usually Silchus plays, tops a lot of events. So it's hard to say. But once one of these decks make the top cut, you often see them make a good run. It just seems to be the case. A zombie deck just tops, and the next thing you know, they're in the finals. It might be 1 out of 30 zombie players, and they're in the top cut, and boom, they're in the finals or win the whole event. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a zombie deck. The deck is still really good. And let's see what other ones I have here. We talked the frogs, and I do think Diva Hero right now is positioned very well. And the reason why is because of Snowman Eater. I think this card is really, really good right now if the meta continues to be the way it is with Hero Beat and Blackwing. They can't deal with this card at all. I played against Ludo in my round 7 match in Swiss in the last tournament, and 2-0'd him, not that because I'm great, but because this card is just really good, and it's difficult for them. They have to either drop Kalut in damage step just to try to run over a Snowman Eater. It really stops the Shura plays. It's just difficult to deal with. Of course, in top 8, he was able to 2-0 me, so, take that for what it's worth, how good this card can be. But against Hero Beat, I think it's even better because the fact that they just think it's, they could think it's a recruiter or anything, and they go attacking with it, and then they can't spark because, of course, it happens in damage step. So that's kind of a good way to play around spark without really having to play around spark. This deck is extremely explosive. I'm not sure if it's positioned better than zombies or not. I really haven't compared the two decks, but it plays a little bit like the zombie build. Obviously, zombies really rely on level 6 plays, where this deck does not. It's more just level 8s. It's actually hard to make level 6 plays in this deck, which is what I found. Again, probably wasn't playing the deck right, but because really the only way you can do it is like Plague with Stratos, Armageddon Knight, and that's about it. So for me, making a level 6 was not a very common occurrence, whereas in zombies, it's pretty much all you can make. So definitely plays a little bit different, but I think that this deck is here to stay right now. I'm not saying we're going to see 4 of them in the top cut, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see 1 sneak in, especially if a true hero is playing. He tops a good amount of events with the deck. So I wouldn't be surprised if this deck is in the top cut. So again, Vayu, very common. You see this deck in top cut frequently. Hero Beat, I do think is here to stay. I don't think it's going anywhere just because of one tournament. Blackwing is always in top cut. Frogs, I do think that we'll see at least 1 in top cut. Diva Hero, I think we had 2 in deck Devastators. I think this deck is really moving back up the ranks here, and I'm saying I think this deck is like high A tier. I really do. Again, I never really played the deck before. I played 10 matches with this deck. I went 7-1 in Swiss. I actually lost to Fitz, who won the whole event with Dragons, and I lost my top 8 match, which is common for me. It's a common curse. Every time I top, I just can't seem to win a tournament. But so I went like 7-2 with the deck, and I pretty much picked it up that day. So I'm not saying that the deck is easy to play. I'm just saying that the deck is very good. And then I think that we can see a zombie sneak in there. What I don't think we will see, I do not think we'll see that Dragon deck top. That deck that specifically won Deck Devastators is first off, the player is extremely good. He's very underrated. A lot of people don't know who he is, but I played him a few times and have yet to beat him. Fitz is an extremely good player. He also brings a lot of spice to different tournaments. He pretty much created the Flameville zombie deck and ended up winning like a BCS tournament, which again, they're not the toughest in terms of competition, but there's a lot of good players that play, and the deck was really cool. He knows how to play the game. It's kind of like Carpath's Fairy Chaos deck, where he's pretty much the only one who's done anything with the deck. The deck is good, but I think that it is better with the pilot, and especially the person who creates the deck. So I don't think we will see that Dragon deck top. I'm not even sure how good it is compared to regular Disaster Dragon. I just couldn't tell you because I haven't played the deck, but I just wouldn't be surprised if... I do think there's going to be a lot of people playing the deck because that's usually just how it is in Yu-Gi-Oh! Everybody wants to play the new hottest stuff, but I don't think that they're going to perform as well as he did. So, and he was playing on point that day. Like when I played against him, I was very, very impressed. He was very slow, methodical. He waited. I knew he had a Future Fusion. I had MST set. He would set Solemn, wait another turn to Future Fusion just to... Solemn if I had the Dust or MST, which I did. Just playing very, very conservative and methodical. I just don't know if people are going to be able to replicate his run. So I don't think Dragons will be in the top cut, but I'm sure we'll see some spice. Who knows? Maybe a Gemini deck will make it in there, but I want to wish everybody good luck who's playing this weekend. Again, I won't be in the tournament. I'm hoping to catch some of it on stream, and I like to just kind of cheer for teammates and friends and Yu-Gi-Oh! In general. It's kind of what I do. So if you all would like, comment, and subscribe. We're close to 1,000 subs, and Edison War League is booming right now, having a good time. So you guys can check that out in the Beast Mode Discord server. And until next time, I'll see you all later.